Hi, fourth graders! Great job last week with finding the main idea of different paragraphs. Today we're going to deepen our understanding as we search for the main idea of a section of text, which could be more than one paragraph. It's a little trickier to find the main idea of a section of text instead of just a paragraph. So I have 3 tricks to help us. Throughout this video, if you see a big hand come up and cover my face, that means that I want you to pause the video to give you time to complete a task. When you are finished with the task, go ahead and press play again to continue watching the video. Let's start with some review. First of all, what is a main idea? A main idea is the most important idea in a section of text. A lot of times, where can you look in a paragraph to find the main idea? A lot of times the main idea is the very first sentence of a paragraph. Sometimes, though, it's the last sentence of a paragraph. And sometimes it's not even stated. You just use all the clues to figure out what the most important idea is that the author is communicating. Finally, what does every main idea need for support? Every main idea needs supporting details to strengthen it. So let's dive right into a section of text. Today I'm going to be reading from this book called If You Traveled West in a Covered Wagon by Ellen Levine. What was a wagon train? A wagon train was a group of covered wagons that went together on the long trip west. The wagons would travel in a single line so that from a distance they looked like a slow-moving train. If the trail was wide enough, they would sometimes spread out to get away from each other's dust. At night, the wagons would form a big circle with the front of one wagon facing the back of another. Children would often play inside the wagon circle after dinner and just before bedtime. The first trick is to start by asking yourself the question, what is this even mostly about? And your answer can be 1, 2, or 3 words. So what is this section mostly about? It seems like this section is mostly about wagon trains. So I'm going to add that to my main idea map. The next trick is to ask myself, what is the author mostly saying about this topic? So what is the author mostly saying about wagon trains? It seems like the author is mostly saying that wagon trains are a group of covered wagons traveling west. So I'm going to add this to my main idea map. The third trick is to ask yourself this question. What details in here support that main idea? One detail I can find is that a wagon train looked like a train from a distance. That supports this idea because it's explaining why it's called a train. Another detail I found was that they usually traveled in a single line, but sometimes they spread out. I feel like this explains that they are traveling together. A third detail I found was that they formed a circle at night. Again, I think this supports the idea that a wagon train travels together. So now you're going to try it with my help. Make sure that you have a piece of paper and a pencil. Great, now that you have a paper and a pencil, let's take a look at the section of text that we're going to be reading. What was a trail guide? Some wagon trains hired trail guides. These were people who had made the trip before and knew the way. Usually, they had been fur trappers and traders out west for many years. When they came back to the east, they had special knowledge that was very helpful to the pioneers. The guides would know the best places to cross the rivers. They knew how far you had traveled and how much more you had to go. And they taught the pioneers some of the tricks of the trail, which you can read about in this book on page 73. On your piece of paper, go ahead and draw the tabletop, which is the space for your main idea. Then draw a line. This is the space for your topic. And I want you to ask yourself, what is this section of the text mostly about? If you had to choose just 1, 2, or 3 words, write it down. Did you write trail guides? If you did, then we agree with each other and we're on the same page. The second question to ask yourself is, what does the author mostly say about trail guides? Rewind to see the section read again and finish your main idea by writing what the author mostly says about trail guides. You could have written many things here. What I chose to write was that trail guides helped the pioneers, because I thought that the author seemed to be sharing a whole lot of different ways that trail guides helped the pioneers. Now I want you to take a look at the passage again, and this time find 3 details that support your main idea. So if your main idea is that trail guides helped the pioneers, you should have 3 examples of how trail guides helped the pioneers. Write them down as the legs of your table, and then come back to the video when you're finished. One way that the trail guides helped the pioneers is because they knew where to cross rivers. That must have been very helpful. Another way that the trail guides helped the pioneers is that they knew how far they had traveled and how far they had to go. That would also have been very helpful. A final way that the trail guides helped the pioneers is that they taught pioneers tricks of the trail. I wouldn't mind learning some tricks myself. Nice job following along with this. For your independent activity, you're going to do another main idea map. In the last part of this video, I'm going to read this section to you, and I'd like you to pause whenever you need to write down the pieces on your main idea map. What special tricks of the trail did the pioneers learn? When you lived for 5 or 6 months in a covered wagon, traveling almost every day, you had to learn or invent new ways to do things. Here's a problem the pioneers had to solve. What could you do when the oxen's feet got sore? If you got tired from walking and your feet were very sore, well, you could climb up into the wagon and ride for a while. But what were the oxen supposed to do? The pioneers learned a trick from the Indians. First, you cut a small piece of animal skin. Then you make small holes all around the edges and put a string or narrow strip of leather through the holes to make a drawstring. You then put the side with the hair around the ox's foot and pull the string up tight and tie it like a shoelace. After 2 days of wearing these moccasins, the ox's feet would be better. Go ahead and make your main idea map, and remember to ask yourself these 3 questions as you're doing it. First, what is this mostly about? Second, what does the author mostly say about that topic? And third, what are some details that support that main idea? When you're all finished, take a video that shows us your main idea map and explain your main idea and supporting details. Thanks for watching, 4th graders, and happy reading!